so excited to talk with you two today.
Me too. We're so stoked to talk about reptiles,
Awesome.
as always.
Awesome. Would you two briefly introduce yourselves, tell us your name, pronouns, and a little about what kind of pets you have?
Yeah, my name is Evy, she, her, and basically we just have a ton of reptiles and a couple of amphibians and tarantulas and whatnot sprinkled in. And of course, right on cue, a very cute kitten.
Hi, I'm Mitch. He, him. As Evie was kind of saying, we have a ton of reptiles, a cat, a ton of different geckos, snakes, tarantulas. Once you kind of get one, it spirals into a fascination of what else you could kind of keep as well.
Who started it, Evie or Mitch?
I think kind of both of us.
Oh,
Yeah, I was the one who, I was more into reptiles and I was really pushing for us to get a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into a store one day and Mitch actually just saw a snake that he absolutely fell in love with, held her. It was one of his first times ever holding a snake, and we just pulled the trigger and
Wow.
yeah, been on it ever since.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So you got reptiles actually before you got a cat,
Yes.
didn't you?
Yep. Yep, we're those weirdos. The furry animal is the last one we got.
All right, so what kind of work do you do with animals?
So we mostly just do education through our social media pages. We're kind of delving a little bit more into the rescue side of things. We've really been enjoying that. And then also working with some brands to kind of educate people about, heating, lighting, all the things you really need to keep reptiles. And then we've also done a couple of birthday parties and just, we ran this thing called Critter Club for a while where we just had kids come and experience the reptiles, get to hold them and realize they're not so scary. So just really just spreading education.
Sorry, I'm seeing being distracted. My toes are getting bit under the table by mischievous little cheddar.
Do you want me to put them in the other room?
So, where were we? So the cat was the more recent
Yes.
addition into your life. And you were talking about the type of work that you do.
Delving into rescue a little bit. We'd really like to get an official license to do that eventually. It's a slow process. We're working on kind of upgrading all of our stuff before we really get that going, but that's really something we hope to do in the future.
So we try to keep everything as ethically as possible, which sometimes you start small and then you work up. And that also could downward spiral into, we have an empty tank, we should fill it. So I think it's a important piece to then also be mindful, are we able to take care of more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you are trying like ourselves to do a rescue situation, are you able to keep it properly? Do you have the equipment for it? Because then financially, if you can't provide for yourself, you can't also then provide for those animals as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mhm.
It's something that people need to consider and keep in mind.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we want to help them all, but it's not actually helping if you take in 50
Right.
reptiles
Yes.
and you're not having enough to pay your rent,
Mhm.
and it's a whole bad situation. You're not helping anyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a really good point to consider. Well, this is kind of a tangent, branching off from that, but if somebody really does want to help, but they're in a tight spot financially, what do you think is the best thing that they can do that would make a difference?
The best thing that you can do is research rescues that are in your area. Try to reach out to them, heavily research which rescues you're reaching out to.
Because they're not all ethical.
They're not all ethical. There's a lot that aren't. But just really try and connect with the community, make friends in the community, look at their practices. There are a lot of really good resources, especially maybe in local Facebook groups. I'm a part of a lot of those, and I've connected with a lot of great people that way. And then through Instagram as well, I've met a lot of cool local people.
Yeah.
Also, if maybe you're not on social media, you can always pop into your local pet store and be like, hey, by the way, I found this. Do you have any recommendations? And then kind of following up on what you were saying of then do your own research of making sure that place is qualified and able to take care of them.
Yeah, because there are, I would say, way more unethical pet shops than there are really good ones. There's a few really good reptile shops in Oregon, but they're few and far between. So, research.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good point to bring up, because so many of us, we want to help in whatever way we can. So starting small, like you said, finding a community to connect to, a way that you can get involved. That's kind of one of the things you started off with, right?
We're working with someone who's running a rescue who's really, really amazing, extremely ethical with all of his animals, takes all of them to the vet as needed out of his own pocket, which is incredible. So we volunteer with him and just go over kind of once a week and help him spot clean or handle the animals, do health checks or whatever he needs done. And then we're also working with a brand that does reptile lighting. It's a newly released lighting, linear UVB, which is a big requirement for a lot of reptiles, which a lot of people aren't aware of. So hopefully with that, we'll be able to spread a lot of awareness about what kind of lighting and heating they actually require to live a long, healthy life.
Yeah.
Maybe you pop into a store and then you see colored light bulbs, or you see coil UVB, or you go to a different pet store and there's going to be certain heat applicators that, after now being in the hobby, you're like, why are these companies still producing these products?
Yeah.
So then again, that research to make sure that you're buying the correct equipment, that way you save money in the long run, but then also not potentially putting your animal at risk to get burned.
Yeah, because when we were starting out, we were recommended all of the wrong things.
All the wrong stuff. Yep.
And, the more and more you research, you're like, why'd they even sell that to me? Yeah. And so we just want to help spread awareness for what they actually need.
Yes, absolutely.
So people aren't wasting their money either.
The trial and error that we can spare other people by sharing good information and helping to ensure that our animals are going to be safe by providing them with good quality care.
Yes, exactly.
What started this journey for you, for both of you?
So for me, speaking personally, I've always been into animals. It started with marine life. That was my thing for a while. And then you are actually the one who really got me into reptiles when you would come to Village and bring Princess Buttercup, the big Burmese python, an alligator, and just all of these cool critters. And I just totally fell in love with them. And then, of course, the usual typical animal kid things where you watched Steve Irwin and Animal Planet. It's always my favorite channel growing up.
Great inspiration from Steve Irwin.
And once we started actually getting our own reptiles, it just spiraled from there. Now we're just really into conservation and all of that good stuff.
For myself, science teacher had a leopard gecko. I always thought it was super cool. Also, growing up with cats and dogs, we all love them, but it's nice to venture out and try something new. And then, like you're saying, we got our first snake, and then it kind of opens up to you're kind of housing a little chunk of the world, and you can replicate that, and then you could have all different kinds of places across the globe in your home. And I think for myself, that's kind of what really sparked it for me. And also then to the other side of it of plants. So you can have all different kinds of plants. Never thought I'd be a plant person, but now you're walking through a store and you're like, that could go in a tank, that could go with this. So it kind of is that spiral effect of branching out, trying something new, and then once you do, realizing it's a whole new world, and then you kind of view things differently.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's been an amazing hobby for us, and we've learned so much over the years. And we're still learning every day and, updating our techniques and how we do things and upgrading our enclosures as needed. Should always be upgrading and adjusting to new care requirements.
It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 10 minutes or 20 years. We could always evolve and do better. Maybe you're watching a show about some reptiles. Even if we don't keep them, if we're constantly putting an effort to learn about something else, if we do come across it, we can help people that have them. Or if you're interested in getting into it and you're learning about it, you could be like, well, I know a little bit, maybe I should consider before I do purchase that animal.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one, for sure. And we'll circle back to that because I definitely have a question about that. I wanted to go next to, what's it like to give educational presentations? I know what it's like from my experience, but I'm curious to hear what's it like for you.
Most of the time, it's a lot of fun. It really, depends on the group of people. Sometimes
sure.
we'll get, a bunch of 7-year-olds, and, we always go over the rules, like don't run up to the animals, all that. And there's been a few times where it's been a little bit chaotic, which, they're just curious and they're seeing this big snake or this really cool lizard, and of course you want to touch it and you think it's the coolest thing ever. But it can be a little bit hard to manage kids when they're in a big group. One-on-one, they're pretty good about it and understanding.
Very true.
Yeah, doing those birthday parties can definitely get a little chaotic. We've also done some parties for adults, which is really, really cool. It's just fun to see people who, maybe were absolutely terrified of snakes or tarantulas, and then they pet or hold one of our animals and their mind is completely changed, and they end up talking about, oh my gosh, I want a ball python, I want a tarantula now, they're so cool.
That's
so
cool.
We absolutely love just changing people's minds about them, and it's kind of getting rid of that stigma that, they're slimy and they're mean, and we just love seeing people interact with our animals.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is for me, is breaking that boundary of people thinking, it's just like an object in a tank. And just because they don't maybe bark or meow, that they are not as intelligent, so they don't get the respect they deserve. So when you are educating people and able to tell them, hey, if you have like a certain animal and you could tongue train them, most people don't know that. And then by the end of the day, they're wanting to get into it and then eager to get a ball python or a crested gecko. And to me, that's what's super fun.
Yeah. That connects perfectly to my next question, which is, what is your favorite part of the work that you do?
I think, yeah, exactly, like seeing just people's minds getting changed about them, especially to me parents. One thing that really stuck with me is we had a mom come in with her 2 kids, and they were totally into the reptiles and super excited. But she was very, very nervous about snakes. And I brought out Jules, my big carpet python, who's the sweetest, most puppy dog tame snake ever.
She's beautiful.
And
by the way.
she is beautiful. And she held Jules, and by the end of it, she was just obsessed with her.
Wow.
She wanted to she was asking me, like, is she available for adoption?
Oh my gosh, wow,
She
what
was
a turnaround.
Absolutely obsessed with Jules. And just seeing reactions like that. Another one that was really amazing and emotional is a family came in and their son was disabled in a wheelchair, completely blind, and we let him hold some of the animals. So he held Jules, carpet python, and then some of our tarantulas, and he just loved it. He just felt the way they felt, and it was incredible. And we let him he wanted to hold a snake shed and just get to feel it and all those textures. And he was just laughing the whole time.
Oh, wow.
The family was so happy.
Oh,
it's
that's so
it like
cool.
makes me emotional. It was just like a core memory, and it was just incredible to see how appreciated reptiles and inverts really are when people give them a chance.
Yeah.
And how much they can teach us.
For myself, one of the coolest parts about it is working maybe with animals that we don't have. So we gain experience that also gives us education. That way we could help other people. And then kind of like you're saying, to be able to see a kid's face light up when he gets a little buddy and he's super excited to go home and have everything set up and already ready. And then kind of like you're saying too, the parents, it's a big responsibility of, with proper heating and lighting, they're going to live for maybe 20 plus years.
Yeah, and I feel like by getting people hands-on with the reptiles before they get one, they do so much research, and even the kids want to make sure they have everything they need, a big enclosure, the right heating, the right lighting. Like, by actually getting involved with them, they want to do the very best for their animal before they get one, which is really awesome.
That is really awesome. What are some of the challenges inherent in this type of work?
There are a lot.
Without getting too deep into nitty gritty side of things.
People not doing research before getting them. You know, a lot of people don't realize most reptiles are going to live 20 plus years. They're going to outlive your dog and cat. They're a big commitment, and they aren't. I don't think any animal is good for teaching a child responsibility. I hate when people say that. It's a living being.
Yes.
But again, especially with reptiles who live a long time, and a lot of them can be really hardy, even though they're being neglected, or husbandry is off. So we see a lot of like leopard geckos or bearded dragons is what we see the most of, and they get things like metabolic bone disease because people aren't doing research on lighting, or we see them just with all these health problems. And so that's really hard. You know, again, people are going to like Petco or somewhere like that, and they're going off of Petco education, which is very subpar.
Minimal, to say the least.
Yes. So yeah, just people not doing research, and then constantly having to rehome them, overbreeding, especially ball pythons.
Because there's so many fancy morphs. If you do the Punnett squares to get that one fancy ball python, there's 15 others that were just dumped as pets that nobody wants, just to get this one that you could sell for $400.
Exactly, and a lot of morphs that aren't bred ethically. So, you know, things like, this is a little controversial, but, you know, spider ball pythons. A lot of people still defend that. Why are we breeding them if we know they have wobble syndrome?
Yeah, it's problematic to intentionally be breeding something that you know has a genetic disorder built into the...
Again, it's a living creature. Who wants a pet that you know is going to have an issue?
It's not even prone to it. You know that it's going to
it's going to be a special needs animal. Like, what are we doing?
What about then people breeding and crossbreeding, and we don't know yet what's going to happen?
Oh yeah, we've been seeing hybrid stuff. You know, berm ball pythons.
Ooh. Yeah, no.
We have crested gargoyle geckos.
Yeah,
from the same island, but two different species start mixing DNA. We don't know exactly how things are going to play out.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a little scary.
There's
I'm starting to have images of Jurassic Park in my head here.
Yeah, there's a lot of genetic nightmares out there. And I could go on and on with, you know, a list of negatives, but the people that we've worked with and gotten to meet through this community, most of them have been really fantastic and have educated us a lot. So there's definitely a lot of good to the community as well.
So we keep coming back to, and I preached it a lot when I was teaching, how important it is to do research. How should people even go about doing something like that? Because sometimes when you just post a question to the wild internet world, you know, you get all sorts of really crap advice.
There's terrible advice. There's so many things that are controversial in the community, you know, such as like live feeding versus frozen thawed feeding.
What kind of substrate for lizards?
What kind of substrate? Are red lights okay or not okay? And people get very, very defensive over these things. Where I learned the most is actually a couple of different YouTubers that I really like. Again, there are a lot of YouTubers that aren't so wonderful. But one that I really like is Clint's Reptiles. And he is a professor in biology.
Nice.
You know, he's a scientist.
That's helpful.
Very
credentials
helpful
to go with it and back it up.
He makes these really amazing care guides for reptiles.
Excellent.
I highly recommend him. Exotic is another really great one. She's a really good female creator in the community.
Excellent.
So I would check out their videos and also just learn about how these animals live in the wild.
Yeah.
So how you can best recreate that space in your home. Of course, it doesn't have to exactly replicate the wild, But you want to make sure, they have their needs, like UVB, which replicates sunlight for them, and places to hide, and all of that.
Yeah. I've seen people argue about like how natural does something need to be in order to necessarily meet the individual's needs, and I think one of the best answers I've heard to that question is to ask the animal. So whenever possible, like try something in the enclosure or give the animal some kind of a choice and see what they're utilizing. I had a fish at one point that was tearing up the bottom of the tank, throwing sand and plants everywhere. And when I learned a little bit more, I was like, oh yeah, it's a pleco. It needs a cave to hide in. But I didn't have like a nice log cave to be able to offer. So I'm like, well, I have this PVC pipe. Will this work?
Yeah.
I put that in there, and he decided that was perfectly acceptable.
We love PVC pipes. We love
Yay,
them.
PVC!
Another thing that works great if you're in a pinch and don't have a hide, leopard geckos love toilet paper or paper towel rolls.
Yes.
I have a leopard gecko. She loves her paper towel roll. That's where she wants to be 90% of the time.
Nice.
So you can DIY a lot of things, Again, it doesn't have to be perfect.
As long as it's meeting their essential needs.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure what those are, that's where the research comes in and trying some of the things.
Exactly. And again, researching, more ethical pet shops in your area. Go in and talk to the people who work with the reptiles or whatever animal you're into.
See how healthy they are.
Yes, yes.
And if you go into a pet store and you see that their reptiles are in really tiny, really barren enclosures and they don't look so great, maybe don't be taking their advice.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to spot once you know what you're looking for too. You can tell what's a good store. What's a good store.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not the poor employees' fault.
No,
they're just trying their best. If you know you want a very specific animal, research breeders. Expos can be a really great place. But again, you have to look into the breeder you're getting animals from.
Yeah. Because some of them can put on a good show,
and
their table and their booth looks great.
Yep.
But what you don't know is how they keep those animals at home at their facility. Yes. And they might just be stacked in a bunch of Rubbermaid totes. And Rubbermaid totes are, great for transport, but not a very enriched lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Probably not what you want. Or not what you want to be supporting.
I don't need to get an animal to prove my ego. I'm super comfortable with geckos. That's my speed, just derpy little guys. So if she's comfortable with the snakes, I am able to say that's her specialty area. I will ask her for advice and help if I need to do something, clean a cage, versus putting the animal at risk knowing maybe I'm not capable of doing it. And just because it looks cool and it is at that expo doesn't mean you should buy it.
Right.
Expos can also be kind of a breeding ground for things like mites, which are a whole other issue that I've gone through a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to go through mites, especially when you have a lot of reptiles.
Right, if you have a lot, especially.
If one of them has them, they all have them.
A lot of times people don't think of when it comes to treating or medicating an animal, if you have something like a tokay gecko, that is just going to be a bully. And if you don't feel comfortable grabbing said gecko and trying to remove mites or stuck shed, I think that goes into part of that of doing the research. We're big fans of choice-based handling, but also if you notice there's something maybe medically going on, and maybe it's better to be hands-on to catch it sooner than later versus maybe prolonging an injury by the animal not coming up to us.
Right.
To add to that, take your reptiles to the vet.
Yes.
Know where to take them before you get one.
Or if it lands in your lap and you rescue it, do the research immediately upon receiving said creature.
Exactly. Have a vet lined up for them.
Yeah. I mean, if at all possible.
Yes. And if a breeder is willing to sell you something, no questions asked, They're not asking about
Red
Do you-
flag,
yeah.
red flag.
a good breeder should be asking, do you have a proper setup for this? You know, are you experienced with this species?
Have you had
Do
this
you
kind
know
of animal
anything
before?
about this species?
Do you know how big they get? Do you know
Yes,
how long they live?
that's another thing, is how big they get. I see people selling, you know, reticulated pythons and things like that to people, to families.
Even red-tailed boas are
Even
bigger than
red-tailed
most people are
boas.
able to adequately handle.
Even carpet pythons can get that way.
Fair, yes. But like Burmese pythons,
No.
reticulated pythons, anacondas, I'm
Those-
sorry, they're not pets.
They're no.
They could be in a zoo.
Yes.
If you're a specialty reptile caretaker and you really know what you're doing and you absolutely love giant snakes, great. Dedicate your life to taking
Yeah.
care of giant snakes, but they should not be pets.
No.
And I think that's something to being in the hobby. A lot of other hobbyists get mad when we might say something like that.
Yeah.
Because then there's the potential, if they are selling those animals, breeding them, then that makes them look bad. But like you're saying, are they able to actually house this properly? Also, then, is it going to be a safety issue if you then have
Oh my
to
God.
go into said enclosure and give the snake a bath? There should be more than one person around in case something happens. Also, with that, the risk and knowing what could happen if something does go wrong.
Because, yeah, you know, another thing that we need to acknowledge is, even though these animals are generally docile and gentle, if a big boa or a Burmese python, it just takes 1 second for them to strike at you. You know, maybe you smell like food.
Yeah. It'd
They
be an
strike at
accident. It wouldn't be malicious.
No,
but
and
it
they
would still
they wrap
be
you.
bad.
Yeah, that's a dangerous situation. You know, that's why we hear a lot of horror stories about Burmese pythons, and they can, you know, I would never have a Burmese python here with Cheddar.
Yeah.
He's prey. That's
snake is
just
big enough to eat him.
naturally that's how it is. That's the food chain.
Just like you probably wouldn't have hamsters.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
they would be prey for Cheddar and they would live their entire lives in fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just realize what you're
Absolutely.
getting into.
Yeah, and that was the reason that I found a reptile educator to take on the alligator that I had rescued.
Mhm.
Because when he eventually did come out of his hibernation and was then eating frozen thawed rats in one bite, and I heard the bones crunch, I was like,
Yeah, it's a little intense.
that could be my fingers. And it would be an accident.
Yeah.
But
It's
you don't get it
their
back.
instinct. It takes 1 second.
1 second. And
You know-
you'd have 9 fingers instead of 10.
And that's with any animal. Like, you know, at my work with dogs, I have to be extremely cautious. I've gotten bitten by several times.
Mm-hmm.
Every day that I go to my job is more dangerous than when I work with any of the reptiles I have. You know, a dog bite is going to hurt me a lot worse than a bite from any
Lots
one of
more.
my snakes.
Lots more.
You know?
Yeah.
Most of the time, snakes tag you really quick, realize you're not food,
Bounce off.
bounce off.
Yep.
It's pretty rare that they're actually going to start constricting you.
Right.
Hurts for a second, but it's really not a big deal. Just
Mhm.
wash it off. If you're going to keep a big animal like that, have a second person with you in the
Always.
room if you're going to be doing something.
Always.
That's something that Mitch and I practiced when we worked with Burmese python.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlest snake ever. But Mitch would always be watching my back if I had to walk into her enclosure and do anything with her, just in case.
It's one thing when you're holding like a little hognose or a ball python, but then if it's a giant berm, those fears then become exponentially bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's the understanding of, wow, I am super anxiety prone. And if I make a mistake, that's going to set off the snake. Like you're saying, it could be a subtle move of something, and then it goes wrong.
Yeah. And now if people don't know anything about reptiles, they might be thinking, oh gosh, they're super dangerous. But
Mhm.
like, really, any other living creature could potentially hurt you. They're scared and they're
Yeah.
trying to get you to back off and leave them alone.
Naturally, they're going to want to run away or maybe musk on you. Or if it's a big monitor, they're going to try to huff and puff and fling their tail around. So if you aren't aware of those body languages and you're still continuing to stress that animal out, a lot of times that's misunderstood as like, oh, the owner was just walking by and it bit him. So I think that's a big thing too, is realizing the risk of then, even if it is like a well-tamed animal, if it's a big lizard and you have it out and it's crawling on you and it scratches you, it wasn't on purpose, it just naturally has claws, so it's gonna dig in.
Anything with teeth can bite.
Yes. Things without teeth can also bite, and it's kind of funny when that happens. But anyway, that's a side note. I've been bit by a bullfrog once, and their teeth are, like a butter knife.
Yeah.
So it was just like hanging off of my thumb, and I was like, really?
I think
We're doing this?
I think the worst one I've had, we had to move a baby, probably about this big, Nile monitor.
Oh boy.
From one enclosure to another.
They spicy.
He's spicy, really spicy. And I had no choice except you gotta just be quick and go for it. Not the way I would have liked to do it, but he had to get moved. And I grabbed him, thought I grabbed him well, turned his neck around.
Oh yeah.
Bit me all the way up my hand.
Oh, ow.
So I'm holding him, running to the other enclosure as fast as I can, stick my hand in the enclosure, being like, okay, he's gonna let go. He was on my hand for almost 10 to 15 minutes.
I believe it.
Before we finally let go.
Reptiles, one or two things. The snakes do, like you said, that tag you and then they bounce off. The lizards hang on for dear life because they're like, if I let go, this thing is going to eat me.
Yep.
So I'm just going to hold on.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. If you could do that interaction over again nowadays with the knowledge that you have and the experience that you have, let's say you had, a week's notice that you were going to need to move this lizard, what would you do differently?
I would have used a box, probably. I would have used gloves, because I did it completely barehanded, because, I think I'm badass.
I mean, we all do stuff like that from time to
I thought
time,
it was so cool. Learned my lesson there.
I bet the box would have worked really well.
The box would have worked really well. I would have tried to coax him out with food.
That's what I was just going to say, is maybe start the tong training process of getting him comfortable, then jumping onto your hand for food. That way he associates your hand with food.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, instead of just having to grab him, it could have been a slow growing process.
But also associating your hand with food
can backfire.
Yes.
Especially with snakes. With snakes, you really don't want to do that. But yeah, associating like the hand comes in and then the food is delivered elsewhere, that could be a really good way of doing it.
And just use equipment.
Yes. Don't use your
Safety
bare
here is
hands.
important.
Yeah. I've only been bit by a snake twice. And it was both my fault. Once was I was feeding a ball python and the food was not as warm as my hand was.
Yeah.
So the smell of the food got the snake excited, but the warmth from my hand was what he saw. So he targeted my hand. Actually wrapped my hand because it was feeding time.
Yeah.
And then I unwrapped him from the tail end and he unhooked his mouth at that point because he realized that I was not the thing he had intended to eat. Apparently I ruined his appetite because he didn't want to eat it right after that. I felt really bad. It felt like blackberry thorns sticking in my hand, but it wasn't catastrophic.
Right.
And the second memorable time was when I was trying to show off. I was trying to show off the snake to my then boyfriend, now husband, Jesse. I was like, hey, check out this cool Mexican black king snake. He just shed, so look how shiny and black he is. And as you probably are both laughing because, when they just shed, they wake up hangry.
Yeah.
And so I tried gently going in. I'm like, I'm going to touch you now, buddy. So I touched him gently, and he flinched. And I touched him again, and he flinched. I'm like, why did I keep touching him? And then I picked him up. Well, then he bit me. And then I put him down. I'm like, I'm sorry, that was my bad.
Yeah. I've been bitten a few times by our personal snakes. Again, same thing. Always my mistake. Got bitten by my carpet python Jules once. Yeah.
I bet that one was
it was it hurt. And I was going to feed her a frozen thawed rat, dangling it in the enclosure, trying to get her to take it with the tongs. Dropped it.
Oh no. No.
And went to pick it back up with the tongs. And at the exact moment I did that, she struck me and nailed me right in the hand.
Oh, damn. And I bet you weren't wearing gloves, were you?
I was not wearing gloves.
Yep. Yeah. That was a memorable one, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Python bites hurt.
When you feed her now, what do you do differently?
I still don't wear gloves.
But you don't drop the
But
rat
I don't
and try
drop
to pick
the
it
rat
up.
and try to pick it up. I'm very cautious.
If you did drop the rat, you'd probably just close the top and be like, I'm going to come back for that later.
Thank God she's not the kind of snake to wrap.
Good.
She realized it was me the second she did it and just tagged me, but...
Still hurts.
Oh, it hurts. Python bites, their teeth just...
They're hooked backwards so that their prey can't get out because they don't have venom, so they're relying on constricting, and then it helps them swallow, and
Yeah.
it hurts.
I feel like
hurts.
colubrid bites aren't
Not as bad.
as bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes they chew on you a little bit more.
I was just going to say, there's
I've had
always-
king snakes bite. I've been handling them totally fine. They're crawling around. Just decide to start eating me.
Yeah.
It's always king snakes for me.
And when they do that, then we're like, okay, you don't want to be held right now, so...
Yep.
we're
So
gonna
just
put
kind
you back and-
of, start unwrapping them, wait till they let go, and put them away.
Definitely. So if you want to hear a funny story about a time that I handled a snake really poorly...
Yes.
Okay. When I was in college, I took a herpetology course from Portland State. We traveled down to southeastern Arizona. It was a 3-week field trip. Incredible, life-changing experience. I'm a slow, methodical, thinky kind of person, which makes me really bad at catching snakes. I love catching toads, because toads, they just kind of doop, easy to catch. I'm okay with lizards, because there's ways you can kind of lure them and catch them, right? And you can hold them gently so that they don't panic, and you can learn about them, and it's really fun. Catching snakes, you've got to be fast.
Yes.
You got to not hesitate. Or you got to find when they are relaxed and scoop gently under their belly and just kind of be part of their daily excursion while you're, But anyway, gopher snake was spotted. We would drive our van along the road late in the evening when the roads were still hot from the Arizona sunshine during the summer. It'd be like 11 o'clock at night, and this asphalt would still be scorching hot. So the snakes would all come out and warm themselves on the asphalt. We'd drive our van, somebody would yell, "Snake!" We'd all get out of the van. I'd be in the back of the van. I'd be like, "Wait for me!" And they'd all be like getting back into the van by the time I got out of my seat. This time, I should have been suspicious because I got out of the van and they had all circled around the snake and they were waiting for me. They had saved it for me. College students, mind you. I thought, oh, that's so thoughtful of them. You're all being so nice. They were not being nice. This gopher snake was very scared. And so it was hissing to try to scare people away. And it was like shaking its tail.
Oh, yeah, the mimic.
Puffing itself up, trying to make me think it was a rattlesnake. The poor gopher snake was terrified. I was also terrified. I grabbed the snake right behind its head because I didn't want it to bite me, which then, of course, made it even more scared. And it wrapped its tail around my other hand. And so now I'm sitting there with my heart racing, and I'm terrified, and the snake is terrified. And all of my classmates are like snickering at me. They're like, we saved the spicy snake for Misty. And I turned to the instructor. His name was Dane. And I was like, "Dane, what do I do? What do I do?" He goes, "Let go of the head." I was like, "No, I can't do it. He's going to bite me." Let go of the head. No, I can't. He's going to bite me. I'm like, I was tearing at this point in time.
Oh.
And I was like 20 years old, but I was terrified that this gopher snake, not venomous, was going to bite me because it was very scared and I was very scared. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. He's like, "The snake is really scared. Set your hand down on the ground. Let go of the head. It wants to get away." Okay. And I did. And of course, the snake just slithered away. And I was like, oh, now that I can think clearly, grabbing something by the head is not a good way to diminish fear.
Right.
And I would have handled that so much differently now that I know what I know. But in the moment, when we feel scared, we try to control more. Whether that's at the vet clinic and we try to like pin the cat down on the table with a towel, or that's in the field and we catch something, we're like, let's try to grip harder. And that actually increases the risk and puts us in more danger.
Yeah.
So we're telling all these stories about how we've had some maybe less informed interactions. with reptiles and how we would do things differently and would do things better now.
Mhm.
I feel like people just relate to reptiles a lot differently than they do to cats and dogs. Have you found that as well in your experience?
Oh, totally. You know, a reptile's not going to be the type of pet where they're going to come up to you and cuddle.
Yeah, that's probably true pretty much across the board. So it's a different type of relationship.
Way different type of relationship. It's more so you wanting to have a relationship with the reptile.
Mhm.
You know, a cat or a dog, you know, they love you and want to jump up on your lap and be loved on. Reptile, you know, you can take them out and they can not be stressed out, but they'd probably rather not be held.
Yeah,
And
most
just be
of
in
the
their
time.
enclosure or be crawling around.
Most of the time, yeah.
So, you know, it's just learning to work with them and when they feel comfortable
Yeah.
with it.
I don't know if you were there at the time, but towards the end of the time that I was teaching at Village Home, we had a special guest who came in with, I want to say it was a tegu. It was a large lizard. And he had worked with this lizard enough times that he had developed a bit of communication with this lizard of
Mhm.
like, if I hold my hand out and the lizard closes his eyes, then that means that the lizard wants cheek scratches, just like a cat.
Yes.
And that was the coolest thing to see of like, now we're seeing how this can be a two-way interaction.
Yeah.
It can be a dialogue. It can be consent-based, not just I'm holding you, overpowering you because I'm bigger.
I feel like a lot of the larger lizard species are really intelligent like that. Like from us just working with monitor lizards. The one animal that I felt that I really had a relationship with was this big Asian water monitor, black dragon,
Oh,
just
wow.
the melanistic. Her name was Maleficent.
That's such
And-
a cool name.
And she was a wild-caught animal.
Oh, wow.
So that already makes it way more difficult.
Yes.
But I went in with her every single day and just sat in her enclosure with her, talked to her, brought her food, and eventually it got to the point where she would come over and sit on my lap,
Wow.
or there was a couple times where she crawled up my arm and would sit on my shoulder, and I'd be like standing up with
Wow.
her. I had her completely tongue trained. She would eat food off of my lap.
Wow.
So
Well, part of that is the journey getting to that point.
yeah, she was
There's
untouchable at first.
a lot of
Mm.
times where you could put in that time and effort, and maybe it's weeks or months that go by, and you're not seeing that progression. So then, as the person, you may find yourself taking a step back, where you have to just continue that process to where then they are getting comfortable to where you can pick them up, you can feed them, you can train them, and have that bond with them, because people do overlook them. And I think that's because if you put 10 seconds into trying, you're
Yeah.
going to get that same response back.
Mm.
So if you spend months of hard work, you're going to get a much better relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it got to the point with her where, like I said, she'd be on my shoulder. Her face would be right next to mine.
Hmm.
You know, could go for me at any second, and monitor bites aren't fun.
Mm-mm.
That'd be bad.
And she would just hang out there. You know, I completely had trust in her
Mhm.
to not bite me. You know, I know she would know when it was feeding time and when it wasn't. And it was just an incredible experience.
And
to
that
work
was
with her.
unique to you too, because she recognized you specifically out of the people that worked at that facility,
She
right?
wouldn't do it with anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would love when like a group of kids would come in and I'd be going to feed her. I'm like, you guys want to watch a feeding show? And she'd come and crawl on my
Oh, that's
lap,
so
and everyone would be
cool.
like, oh my god, like a dragon trainer.
That's so cool. I wonder if maybe we just don't recognize the intelligence
Yeah.
and the potential for relationship because, like you said, Mitch, it takes longer.
Mhm.
And people sometimes want, immediate results.
Yeah.
And that's why even with dogs, where we have this deep relationship, sometimes we don't have the time to invest in some of the training, and we send them to a dog trainer or
Mhm.
a daycare facility, and there's all sorts of legitimate reasons for that. But I think sometimes the reason that we do that is because
We don't want to deal with them.
we don't have the patience for the training to
Yeah.
develop that, and the problem is, you might then adopt a dog who has the foundations of training, which is wonderful, but you miss out on all of the relationship building that would have taken place had you been part of that training process.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes it's necessary. You can't do all of the training yourself. Just like you can't always be there for every part of your kid's education in some cases. But whenever you can be a part of it, there's value in that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you convince people who see them as more like decorations or like their prized specimen that they want to show off? How do you convince people to see them as creatures that have needs and that their welfare really matters?
It's tough because there's a lot of people in the community that don't see things that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a living, breathing creature. It's not a ceramic lizard. If you don't give it the proper care, it's not going to do well.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people, I feel like especially in the reptile world, that
it's
are
sad
just
but true.
in it for the ego. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, you're probably never going to really
Probably not
change
gonna
their
change
mind.
them.
There's always going to be people like that. But again, it's what we do, and just trying to educate people as much as they can before they get one.
Because there's people like us in the audience watching that person show off with the king cobra, and we're thinking, that's a really cool animal.
Yeah.
Not sure about how you just treated it, though. That doesn't feel right.
Right.
And so maybe you can't change the mind of the person who's showing off with their macho attitude and their big venomous reptile, but maybe your content can trickle down and reach the young people in their audience.
Well, and it's especially bad when there's some big YouTubers where they're just trying to make videos for shock factor, where they're provoking a big reticulated python and it's striking at them, and
people do it with cats too.
People
They're
do
like,
it, all animals.
Like, let's see how close I can get to this cat before it scratches at me. Like,
Yes.
Really? Are you intentionally causing this cat stress just to get more views on YouTube?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I can't stand that. And unfortunately, that's some of the biggest
That's what gets
creators.
attention.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
That influences people in the bad way.
So how do we, as influencers and educators, start to shift that tide so that the discerning viewers who are trying to find good information will find our content engaging?
It's kind of a healthy balance where we're giving proper education, but with fun content, but then allowing people to relate on a certain level. And I think then too, it's kind of also generations. Let's get the younger kids started properly. That way, when they get older, they're teaching the next generation how to do it properly. Because if we don't break the cycle, that's where I think we end up in the endless loop of improper care.
And I feel like a lot of people think they're being educators. I'll be going through TikTok and I'll see a person posting their brand new leopard gecko and their setup. And it's probably not perfect. They'll have, for example, a red light on it. And someone will comment on it and be so mean to them. That's not the way to do it.
No, that is not the way.
That's just mean. That's not helping anyone in the community. Maybe send them a personal message and be like, hey, this is maybe why that red light isn't so great. Here's a better option for you to look into.
Yeah, not shaming people and making them feel bad, because that's not going to help anyone.
The term animal abuse is thrown around.
Oh,
Yes.
you're right.
There's a big difference between someone just not being super educated and animal abuse.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Big difference. Yep. Very true. Yep. So I think you're right on. If we want to influence people, we want to do it by creating good content and not by putting other people down and shaming them if they do something wrong. I think maybe part of it too could be owning our own mistakes.
Yeah. Oh my
saying,
gosh.
I've done some pretty stupid And then we think after the fact, that really wasn't an ideal situation, and I put that animal in a lot of stress. I can do this better.
Yeah, and you're gonna make mistakes. We've made a ton of husbandry mistakes, especially when we were first getting into it. We have learned from our mistakes. We've done it. We've done exactly what they've done.
Yeah.
And we just have more experience now. And husbandry is constantly evolving and changing with research. Maybe the lights that we have on our reptiles in a couple of years, we find out aren't great for them.
Maybe we'll phase them out and come up with something better.
Exactly.
What do you say to people who want to rescue a reptile?
It's the same thing with pet stores.
But
you think you're saving an animal, but then you're
giving money to the breeder and the pet store, and it's a sticky situation. It's like, how do we define what is rescue versus what is perpetuating the cycle? You don't really want to support the continual cycle of poor animal care by giving them money, but at the same time, people genuinely get in situations where they can't continue to care for the animal that maybe they did their research and they were able to care for it at the time, and then something about their life changed.
And I hate to see people shaming people for that.
Right.
Because most of the time these people are just looking for better home. They're trying to do what they think is best for the animal.
Exactly.
And that's what matters, what is best for the animal.
That's what matters.
Do you want this person to keep the animal if they can't care for it properly? No. Most people don't want to rehome their animals.
Yep.
I know for me, it would have to be a really, really desperate situation for me to have to do that. And I would hope people would be kind to me in that scenario.
If someone is trying to rehome an animal, if you could tell then too, like ourselves, if we're giving our animals this amazing care and they can see that, then they should be able to maybe kind of tell they're doing their very, very best. There must be a reason behind maybe why they're rehoming it. Like you're saying, life does happen. Now, if we seen a animal that's in horrible condition and it's kind of in the back room and not being taken care of properly and it's trying to be rehomed, maybe they do think they're trying to give it a better life, but like you're saying, that's then kind of that endless cycle.
If I go into a situation where it looks like they're actively breeding the reptiles and then rehoming them, and they've got like dozens and dozens and dozens of them and they're in not the best shape, then I might, if I see one that's really not doing so well, and I might be like, I can take this one from you, I could rescue this, but I'm not going to pay you to take this animal as a rehoming fee to support the work that you're doing because it looks sketchy. If you're working at a pet store or if you start your own rescue, you're going to get people who bring them to you in all sorts of condition. But at least at that point, they're not asking you for a rehoming fee.
And sometimes with the rescuing and rehoming, sometimes it is like too far. And for animal lovers, we all hate the fact of seeing something maybe passing. But it does happen, and that I think is one of the hardest parts too, is we could do all that we can, but there's always going to be the one that can't. I think with the rescue especially, it's extra difficult. At the end of the day, you'd be like, wow, I tried all these different things to make sure they're going to have a better quality of life. If they still don't make it, at least it shows how much you did try. And you're able to kind of look back on that and be like, well, if I sat here and did nothing, then it would be even worse.
Just knowing you tried helps a lot. Just think about, the fact that you might have given them more comfort in the end. And that there's sometimes just nothing you can do about it, and that's the way it is, unfortunately. And just do your best for your other animals or the next animal that needs help. You just got to keep going. Because for every sad story, there's usually a lot of good ones.
Do you have a favorite rescue story?
Oh gosh, what do you?
Mine's probably gonna be Nougat.
Nougat was being listed on Facebook Marketplace. He's my leopard gecko. I was just browsing Facebook Marketplace just for like reptile supplies, you know, just check it out.
Right.
You're not
supposed to sell
You're not
animals
supposed to
on
sell
there.
animals on there. People do.
People do.
And someone had listed just reptile tank. And I clicked on it, and there was a picture of his little face, and his enclosure was totally like barren, you know. I think these people were trying. They had inherited him from someone else, and it was like he's just kind of being passed around. I saw his picture and was like, I have to go get that leopard gecko. And we went and picked him up, and he's just my little baby boy. I adore him.
I think that's my favorite because you get to see the transformation of what he was at then.
Yeah, because he was
versus
terrified, not a well-socialized gecko.
How he is now and the mansion that he lives in. So for the keepers too, it's nice to be able to rescue stuff and be able to physically see your hard work that you've put into it and knowing that they are having a better life.
Yeah.
All of our rescue animals have just been the best.
Where can people find you and relevant resources to learn more about reptile care?
Yeah, so the best place to find us is on Instagram. Our handle is just PDX Critters. We'd love to start up a YouTube channel soon, so hopefully that's coming.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time.
Thank
this
you.
has been so
Thank
fun.
you.
It was so
Getting
fun.
to talk about reptiles, an underappreciated animal group for sure. And yeah, till next time.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.